How is it going, folks? We are back for a transfer special today. You know the deal by now. We are preparing for our second season in the Championship. Now, I will hold up my hands and admit I lost track of time today. It's the 3rd of June in game. I didn't realise I'd already got into June. The season in the Championship, I think, ended a little bit later. And on top of that, I was just distracted by all the board negotiations going on. But you can see here, improved training facilities, improved youth facilities, the new stadium. There's a lot changing here at Guernsey. As you can see here, we received a solidarity payment of £4.82 million. I went a little bit crazy with it. The training facility upgrade, it's not that cheap. If we look at things here, £1.84 million. It's going to be done in November. I'm hoping that's going to be worth it. Now, on the stadium front as well, we have got some more information on that stadium. It's going to be called the Guernsey Stadium. I feel like we can come up with a better name than that for our stadium. It's going to be completed in 2 years' time, so a little bit of a wait for that one. And while with all those upgrades off the pitch, it has impacted the transfer budget a little bit. We sit with £447,000, about £10,000 free in wages. The overall balance, though, of the club is in a really healthy spot still, and I may have already got some dealings going. We will talk about them in a mo, but not before we run the intro and also discuss the sponsor of today's video. So in order to raise the transfer budget here at Guernsey, I have reached out and found a sponsor for the channel, not for the team in real life. And that sponsor today is Western Digital and the WD Black SN850X SSD. With read speeds of up to 7,300 megabytes per second, the Western Digital Black SN850X is the perfect boost for your PC as you load up the Park to Prem database and give it a go yourself. There's up to 4 terabytes of storage which you can use to save your favourite goals and highlights from the match engine, and you can get it with an optional heatsink to help maintain peak performance through long sessions of FM and, of course, just any other game you're playing, really. If you'd like to find out more information about the WD Black SN850X SSD, there is more links and info down below. It is a top-performing SSD, really good value for money. Go check it out. Give your PC the boost it needs. Editing Jack, yeah, just me. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but just checking that ad read was okay, right? That's gonna... Now we get to add money to the transfer budget. That is why you're called Editing Jack, right? You can use the editor and stuff. What do you mean you've spent all the money to go on holiday? So it does turn out this won't actually improve your transfer budgets in FM, but it will improve your transfer speeds. Is anyone else wondering where Editing Jack's gone on holiday? So I did talk a little bit about it at the end of last episode, but in terms of with this transfer special, the wage budget I've been able to move up a little bit by rejigging the transfer budget, but realistically, we are looking at minor upgrades this year, with maybe the possibility of flipping on some players for some good money if the right offers come in. In terms of where we have gaps, right wing back, left centre-back, Beckford, unlikely to renew his loan. Davis, still hoping he might join us back from Man City. Of course, his current loan is up in a month. They still don't want to loan him back to me. So we may even have a centre-attack in mid-position to resolve, and also a striking spot. I feel like last year, Williams being top goal scorer, whilst it's great for Williams, it's a bit of an indictment and a reflection of the fact that we don't have enough quality in the final third. So a really good striker, potentially a new highest earner, might be the order of the day. I've already mentioned it, but I did lose track of time a little bit, and I did actually do a little bit of wheeling and dealing early. A couple of youth players released by Liverpool's Academy. At the end of March in Football Manager, you might have seen the inbox item you get where it's kind of youth players set for release. A couple of Liverpool's youth players I decided were worth a little bit of a punt to come in as potentially squad players, maybe players who slot into the under-21s, but ultimately could be sold on for some money. The first here is Daniel Kibiru. He is a Dutch under-21 international, 19 years old. He is mega inconsistent. He can play left back as well as centre back. If he is going to play a squad role for us, I think it would be as a centre back. At 19 years old, he's got loads of room to grow, good natural jumping ability. The kind of player who would probably end up being our 6th or 7th choice centre back. In an absolute injury crisis, he could come in. Ordinarily, he probably shouldn't be playing. The other Liverpool youngster we picked up is Symington, slightly younger this man, 17 years old, actually it's his birthday next month. But nevertheless, he's a very, very young player, some decent physicals, can play that defensive midfielder position that looks like it's going to be an area of the team we do need to bolster. Definitely not close to first team ready, but the kind of player who can maybe develop into something. And then we get on to more interesting transfers. The first here, £55,000 this year, £75,000 paid over the next 3 years. We have signed Aaron McKillop from AFC Wimbledon. This man has under 20 caps for England, but was still playing in League One. Unfortunately this year, AFC Wimbledon have been relegated, and with that, he wanted to move out, and I really like the look of this guy. 18 years old, either-footed, amazing stamina, amazing work rate. A lot to like about him. He can't play defensive midfielder, so that will be something we're training him in right away. But if we look at his scout report, it doesn't actually say it here. My scouts thought he had Premier League quality, and if he has Premier League quality at, what was it, £130,000? I mean, he could be the bargain of a century. The one other player we're looking at is this guy, Patrick Vaugns. Now, of course, we've already signed Adam, who's the German left back. I feel like we need to get in a German right back, so Patrick Vaugns is the man. Actually found this guy by just looking at the German under-21 national youth team. He was valued at nothing. His contract's expiring. I'm hoping we're going to be able to sign him. Minor issue. There's lots of teams interested. None of them have made bids yet, though. And actually, one thing to note with Patrick here, as well as with McKillop, is I did have to offer them contracts that involve release clauses. Yeah, we've got another Teixeira situation. We managed to resolve it with Adam and Teixeira, hoping to get these guys in, bed them into the team quickly, and then hopefully just get rid of those release clauses as fast as possible. So the current wage budget available does sit at £11,000. We've got £500,000 in transfer budget still as well. And I think one thing that we desperately do need to get in is a centre-back. Now, I was having a little peek here. Of course, it is the 3rd of June already. So all these players in England with a month left on their contract, we can actually approach to sign. One man who I've had my eye on for a little while here is Malachi Fagan-Walcott. 30 years old, so not the youngest player by any means, but he is someone who looks like he could be a good little centre-back. He's been in the League 2 Media Dream 11 for years. Wycombe were wanting millions of pounds for him. He is now available, potentially, as a freebie. If we just compare him with Scott Williams, just to provide a little bit of context here, he's not as good defensively, but he's got this 16 speed and some really good technical and attacking ability when he does have possession of the football. And I just feel like there's a lot to like about him. I've got to be honest, I don't love the player trait gets forward whenever possible, although on a centre-back I don't think it's too detrimental. Most of the time they don't just go mentally making runs forward. So I think I'm going to make an offer for this guy. Like I said, I've had my eye on him a while. Not sure I can guarantee him a spot as a starter, but I definitely think he could be the Beckford replacement, kind of that third choice striker, the third striker in the back three, the one who maybe is more prone to being rotated out. Good news, he seems to be interested. Does anyone hate it when they get these kind of negotiations where the agent goes, you make us an offer. Why is my director of football wanting to offer him £7,000? We can't do that. How much is Malachi currently on? He's currently on £3,000. I'll offer him the same wage as he's already on. Top promotion wage rise, I'll give him 50%. He's 30 years old, so he's not exactly a long-term option. He's asking for £13,000 a week. That ain't happening, is it? In terms of our top earner at the club at the moment, it is Percy Donald. That will be changing soon, though. Scott Williams has had a new contract offered to him. He is going to become the top earner, our captain, on £4,500 a week. Given the fact the wage budget hasn't exactly gone up massively this year, I kind of want to set a soft wage limit of around £4,500, maybe £5,000 if the right player was available. Just looking through some of the other centre-back options here that we have got scouted. I mean, there's no one who jumps out at me immediately. One player who I did have my eye on at one point was Mason Hancock. He is a player who can play left centre-back, which is an area of the pitch we do need a player in, but I was looking at him as more of a squad, resourceful, super flexible option who can play left wing-back and play centre-back. Naturally, with the addition of Adam to the team in January, don't really need another one of those kind of players. I realise I've talked about all the players I want to sign. Should probably talk about some of the players that I am potentially looking to move on here. There's a couple of players who, obviously, I'd like to get back out on loan. Evan Broderick here, we signed from Crusaders. Actually, the kind of player who maybe could benefit from just being at the club for a year, to be honest. We could do with working on his pace a little bit. For a wing-back, 8 acceleration is going to be a problem. But elsewhere, there are players like Johnny Arnott, who I'm not really sure I can guarantee a spot in the first team. His value still feels really, really high for his actual ability. I'm going to transfer list him and offer him out for £350,000. Another player we've got is Sereno. I believe it said Sereno. I've heard the comment section. This man is a good backup left back, but to be honest, with Adam in the team now, I don't see a way that he gets into the team anytime soon. Given the fact he's valued for between £210,000 and £850,000, if we could get £350,000, I'd kind of be happy with that. George Murphy, another man who's probably on his way out the door, had limited opportunities this year, but really didn't shine when we played him in any of the games. He'd prefer to stay at Guernsey, but he's open to looking at other moves. I'm sorry, Murphy. I know you're one of the reasons we got promoted to the Championship, but I think his time's come. Paul Appiah has been asking to leave the club for a little while. I'm not going to stand in his way. I think we can probably get better backup centre-backs, so we're going to offer him out too. And another player who I won't be offering out, but will be leaving us in a month's time, Jordan Gabriel. Just as a little reminder, he's currently injured for the next 5 months. And at 33 years old, we gave him a year-long deal. Safe to say it didn't really work out as a transfer. And for those wondering, Tyler Forbes is just still at the club. He's 30 years old. I did give him a new contract recently. He's here for another 3 years at least. Looking through more of the centre-back options that have contracts expiring in a year, I have just set a wage limit of £5,000 in terms of their current wages. I've spotted another Jamaican, Luke Badley Morgan. He's injury prone and he hates important matches, but he's pacey. You know what? I can't just focus on the physicals. There has to come a day where I do look in the technicals column. Maybe this is the season to start doing that. A player who I've been eyeing up for a very, very long time is Jordan James here. He is a player who moved to Bournemouth for £4.3 million, then took the step down to Swindon, who were relegated last year. Swindon wanted £2 million when he was relegated with them last year, but now he's in the final year of his contract. I can just approach to sign him, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if he'd be the starting defensive midfielder for us, but he'd certainly add some quality there. Super consistent, 27 years old as well. Currently on £1,000. Apparently he's not interested in joining us. Apparently we need to improve our team to be able to attract a player playing in the Vanarama National League. That might be the most depressing thing I've ever read. I suppose one thing that is important to remember is if we just look at all the teams in England by rep and sort them, we are still a very, very long way down here. In fact, we are here. We are below teams in League 2 when it comes to reputation. We're below teams in League 1 as well. I mean, look at this. This is why we're struggling to attract players. Our reputation is just lagging behind. I feel like we're going to need a few seasons of consolidation in the Championship just to have some pulling power, because right now we are pretty much a League 2 team when it comes to reputation. That is actually really miserable, isn't it? Some good news here. Serino's had an offer from Charlton, 350k for him. I am absolutely going to take. And elsewhere, some offers for Murphy as well. £115,000 for a player who really didn't make a mark in our team. Good money received. That's going to be just shy of £500,000 for 2 squad players. In the case of Serino, we'd kind of already replaced him with Addons into the team. So, yeah, those 2 sales are actually really nice. You might have spotted looking at the first team as well. Blaine Goller, I think, might be playing in the first team this year. We need to start training him to play as a defensive midfielder. I'm training him as a segundo volante, even though we don't play that role, just because it's a really good role to train that covers a load of different areas of a footballer. Of course, he is naturally a striker. First half of last season, he was at Wigan. Then he went to Falkirk to play in the Scottish Championship. I'm not 100% sure if he's ready for us, but to be honest, I think it's better to have a player like Blaine Goller than it is to have a player like Murphy or AC, who probably doesn't really have any long-term value to the squad. Not players who are going to develop. Blaine here, he's been a hot prospect for a while. It's time to give him a chance. Between McKillop and Goller, I mean, they both need to learn to play defensive midfielder. We might have 2 long-term options as DMs in our team here. Of all the players we're currently looking to sign, Patrick Vorms is the one I really, really want. This guy, obviously, German under-21 international, playing for AC Milan. Didn't really talk about him much earlier. He could end up playing as a defensive midfielder for us. He could end up even playing as a wing-back on the right-hand side for us. That right wing-back position needs some love. The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking wing-back might be the play, just because he is lacking a little bit when it comes to stuff like tackling and marking. I mean, his physicals are absolutely immense. He's 20 years old as well. If we get this man, it would be a massive, massive signing. I might be leaving this a little bit late. I'm just going to go through all the national teams, sort the players by value, and see if there's any players like Goller whose contracts are expiring. Like this guy, Foucher. He's already joining Rangers. I mean, just for a moment there, I got a little bit excited. Now, of course, I do appreciate it. I do play with attribute masking off, but if you wanted to do this yourself and you're playing with it on, you can just look at the players that look interesting and then just scout them, obviously. Here we are just sorting players by value to try and identify players who might be very good, like Mudu Gassama, whose contract's expiring at Chelsea. He looks immense. He's on £18,000 a week. There's no way I can sign him, is there? That he wants us to get promoted. A few years early, I think, Mudu. Or is it Modu? We'll never know. I was looking at renewing Abu Kamara's contract. It's up at the end of the year. Apparently he wants between £5.75 and £7.25 thousand. I asked his agent about it. He said it without blinking. And I love Kamara. He's been a vital part of our team. I can't give him £6.2 thousand. I just can't. At 28 years old, it's just too much. We might lose him at the end of the season, and that hurts to say. Have also had a transfer offer for Oisin Gallagher here, who I like as a player. He's really well-rounded, but he's never really been happy being a backup. I do like him for depth, though. He's the kind of player who I feel like is criminally undervalued by the game. How long's his current contract? It's up at the end of next year. Oh, what do I want to do? I mean, we've got Goller coming into the team who you could argue could certainly fill that void. You know what? I think I'm going to have to sell him. Shelburne have made the best offer of just 19.5k. I'm going to reject the other ones. I'm kind of tempted to offer him out for a little bit more and see if we get any more nibbles. But given his value, I don't think we're going to get much more money for him. I'm going to have to walk away from this Kamara contract. Might live to regret it. I know he's going to be unhappy. Apparently, Gallagher's frustrated not to get the move. They didn't pay the most, mate. Sorry, that's how it works. I need every penny I can get. Two really big bits of news here. Serino is leaving us for £350,000. We signed him on a free transfer. He played 9 games and played rubbish. The fact we're getting £350,000 for him is amazing. This is the kind of transfers that we are going to have to do in the Championship to be able to generate some money. And elsewhere, more good news, Vaughan's is waiting on a work permit. So Patrick Vaughan's might be coming in. Yeah, he's a little bit inconsistent. Yeah, he's not the perfect player, but he's good in the air, really good mentals, really good speed. 20 years old. I feel like he could be a really useful right back for us. All I'm going to say is, here is him versus Jay Haddo. Jay's been amazing for us this year as this emergency right back option who became a regular starter. Patrick he's different gravy. You know, Jay Haddo, he's like the gravy you have on your chicken on a Sunday roast. Vaughan's is the one you have when you go on a fancy carvery. That's the kind of gravy he is. Vaughan's is fancy. Jay, sorry, you remind me of my grandma's cooking. I've said some pretty wild analogies during my time on this YouTube channel. That might be the weirdest. So I was just looking through players with contracts expired. We've known this before, but Scottish teams released their players earlier. It's how we found Robbie Yer back in the day. And I was looking at this guy, Lebois. It's probably not Lebois because he's not French. Lubos sounds good. Krunert. He is a Czech striker. Check him out. He can also play centre mid. He looks really, really good. Super consistent, really good attacking ability, some decent acceleration and some well-rounded physicals at the age of 23. He was on loan at MK Dons. Let's not judge him for performances at MK Dons. No one's ever going to perform well at MK Dons. Could he be a good striking option for us? If Abu Kamara is on his way out the door and is asking for £6,000 a week, I feel like Krunert here would be quite a logical progression as a signing. Okay, mate, how much are you going to want a week? Please don't hurt me. He's hurt me. 15,000. 15! I can't do it. Okay, really good news here. Scotty Williams has signed a new deal at the club. But like I mentioned, it is making him a new highest earner. It's a 4-year deal. Locks him down for the long-term future, though. He is the kind of player who I think is good enough to play regularly for us in the Championship for the foreseeable future, and on that kind of wages, we've now got him locked down for his best years, which I consider a colossal win. Patrick Vaughan's has been granted a work permit. We can now agree to sign him. He will join us tomorrow for £8,000. Yeah. How are we going to cope with that? Like I mentioned before, he does have this release clause. Don't love it, but on £3,000 a week, there's a little bit of room to move up his salary in order to potentially remove that clause after he's been here a few months, if he's impressing us. I mean, if he's not impressing us and we get £1 million for him, that's still pretty good because we've signed him for nothing. And elsewhere, Gallagher is going to head to Shelbourne for £20,000. I'm going to confirm that. We've got some young centre mids coming in. I'd rather play them over him, and this year he's just been a bit of a disturbance in the dressing room. I don't want to beg you, Man City. I really want to keep Brian around. Please don't take Brian away from me. I'm begging you. They don't care. Celtic, I'd really like to keep Wayne Beckford around. They want to test him in a different environment. Wayne, tell them how much you want to stay here. I feel like that should be like an option. When you've got a player in on loan, you can tell them, hey, do you want to tell your parent club you want to stay for another year? There you go. Free feature suggestion, people at Sports Interactive. I imagine someone who works on Football Manager watches these videos, so have that one for free. I want royalties, though. Every time it pops up in someone's save game, I want 1p. Thank you. I wonder how much money I'd actually make if I got a penny every time someone used that feature. Probably just be me using it all the time. Everyone else is sat watching this video thinking, no, I don't really need that. Pani has consistently been asking to leave the club this year, and it feels like we are having a bit of a rebuild when it comes to the centre-mid options. Maybe it's time to move Connor Pani on. I really like this man, probably more than I should. We signed him for £27,000, had a sensational year in League 2, sensational season in League 1. This year he did still make 36 appearances. He started 17 games. I am now looking at his value thinking, if you're worth 450k, yeah, I might cash in on him for that. If we could get over 300,000, I'd sell him without thinking about it. Perry Vallecano have identified Aboubakari as a transfer target. How much would I sell Aboubakari for? We signed him for £300,000. I really like Aboubakari, more than I should really. He's got a lot of issues with him, but I'll tell you what's not an issue, his personality. He's iron-willed. I feel like I've never seen that personality before in Football Manager. Iron-willed. Who doesn't want an iron-willed player in their team? I mean, Aboubakari's still got 3 years left on his current deal, so even if he wants to try and force a move, don't really have to sell him. I say that knowing their bid of £3 million came in, I probably would have to take it. Okay, 4 new signings confirmed. Symington coming in. He's going to be just vibing in the under-21s. Could develop into a good little player, though. Kibiru as well, probably going to be in the under-21s team. But if we had injury issues, I would not hesitate to put this man in at centre-back. He's not a championship centre-back quality kind of player yet, but he could be there one day. 2 players to be more excited about, though. McKillop is coming in. I'm hoping he's going to McKill the opposition. He's the killer. Can we call him the Killers? Will the band sue me? Look, he's a great little player, this man. Centre mid. Does need to learn the art of playing defensive midfielder. I feel like I need to have a coach whose specific job is to train our players to play good at DM. And last but not least, another kind of square peg that I think we're going to shove into a round hole. We're going to have Vaughan's here, and he is going to learn the art of playing wing-back on attack. He does need to work on his attacking movement, but he has some really, really good kind of physicals, some really good mentals as well. Great bravery, great determination, really good teamwork. Love his stamina and work rate. That to me just screams wing back, especially with some okay technicals. At 20 years old as well, still a little bit of time to develop. There's suddenly a very German theme to our team. We're going to have Adam at left wing back and Vaughan's at right wing back. I mean, how do they compare to one another? They're like 2 peas out of a pod. I say that they are slightly different as players, but they're both very, very decent, both 20 years old. Maybe they were born in the same hospital. We'll never know. I say we'll never know. I can check. Volgast is where Vaughan's was born. Where was Adam born? Adam, were you born there too? No. Okay, they weren't born in the same hospital. Sorry to disappoint everyone. Serino's left the club. It's £350,000 for a backup. We'll take that. No one wants Pani for £400,000. Probably was an ambitious starting point. Leyton Orient have made an offer for a Paya. I'm going to sell him for that. I could keep him around, but ultimately he is just a backup centre-back option. A loyal servant to the club who's desperately wanted a move for a little while, and well, he played 3 games this year, so it's not like it's a massive first-team presence we're losing. I feel like the Premier League and the Championship are kind of the 2 steps up where you have to be a little bit more ruthless. There's not as much room for sentimentals. You know, you can't have a few players that are just being carried by the rest of the squad. There has to be quality everywhere. People are sat there thinking, Jack, you're saying that, but Darren Rigby's still in goal. Look, there are exceptions to the rule. Rules are there to be broken. He kept 10 clean sheets in 46 games. That's not terrible. I was just spending some time looking through national youth teams, especially in the home nations where work permits aren't going to be an issue. Raphael Wallace here plays for Grimsby Town. Is he interested in a move? He wouldn't be interested in a move because he'd prefer to stay at Grimsby. He might want a loan. He's really good. 16 years old, super consistent, fairly professional personality. The value's a little bit on the high side, but with all the players going out, we could probably afford him. That said, I probably shouldn't spunk all my transfer budget on this kind of player. Probably should look at improving the first team. Still not found a striker. I have been looking at some of the players relegated with MK Dons, Nottingham Forest and Salford. None of them want to join me. It's so sad. It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? When you're looking at players with contracts expiring in 1 month and you see this player with a contract expiring at Luton on £14,000 a week, that's a little bit intimidating. But you think, well, he's a championship player. Maybe he's good. You look at him and go, he's probably better than what we've got. And then you look at his history and realise he's been playing for Luton for a little while. And in the last 3 years of football, he's scored 2 league goals. This is the kind of player that's considered a 4-star player in our team. And that is a bit of a reality check. Georgie Murphy is going to leave the club. A little bit sad to see him go, but we've got a little bit of cash for him. 115k. Yeah, 115k. That is correct. I can't do math. Last transfer specials, I kept saying per week at the end of stuff. People got very confused. I don't know what's going on in my brain. When I sit down and start playing Football Manager for hours whilst talking, apparently I forget how to speak English. Nevertheless, Murphy signed for 20k, not even that, sold for 115k. That is a good little bit of business. And with those current sales, our transfer budget is quickly approaching £1 million. We've now got over £2 million in the bank. One of our youth players who I was really excited by when we picked him up but really hasn't lived up to my expectations is Caden Tipping. We loaned him out last year and he was top goal scorer in the National North and South, but he didn't really improve as a player. So this season just gone, kept him around and trained him, and he's not really developed. Obviously, our youth team isn't the best anyway, but he's just not shown any real signs of progression. There's some teams who want him in on loan. I'm kind of tempted to try and see if we can get a bit of money for him. Given the fact he's 19 and he's got some potential, I'd like to think there might be a team out there willing to pay a bit above what he's actually worth. So I'm going to be greedy, going to start at 700k, and if people don't bid, maybe I'd lower it a little bit. If I could get more than £300,000, I'd probably look to move him on. He has only got 1 year left on his current deal, so I have got to be a little bit wary about making him moody. At the same time, we signed him for £3,000. So even if he did end up just leaving on a free at the end of the year, it's not like we've lost a load of money. Apaya's leaving the club as well, £20,000 for him. This transfer window kind of selling a lot of players that probably should have and maybe could have been sold last year, but we just kept around for safety. Now that I know I don't need them, I'm not so worried about letting them go. Okay, really good news. I've been pursuing this for a long time. Man City are now happy to reloan Brian back to us. Don't know why it's taken them until now, the 17th of June, to decide, actually, yeah, you can have him for another year. I'm going to ask for him for the next 12 months. Thank you very much, Man City. That, if that goes through, is a massive, massive relief, because there was no way we were going to be able to replace him. A man who got 9 goals and 7 assists, one of our top performers. Yeah, would have been an absolute pain to try and get someone in to fill his boots. I am now wondering, can we do the same with Wayne Beckford? No, Celtic still don't really want to give him back. Given our offer for Davis has just been accepted, might just have a little look at Man City. Still, probably some of their better young players that I'd want to sign are currently out on loan, so we're not going to be able to get them in. But who knows, maybe there's some other options out here, like Del Sear. I mean, he looks very, very good as a striker. Will he even join us? Will they want to loan him to us? He's already played for a few teams this year. He's just joined them. When the season ticks over, I might make a move. I feel like this transfer window, I'm going to end up doing business a little bit later than last year. Last year, we had loads of transfer budget and wage budget to fill up. This year's transfer window is relying on us, shuffling budgets around a little bit, moving some players on before we can bring players in. As a result of that, I think before the end of today's video, we are going to get to the season tick-over date. Maybe we won't be predicted to finish bottom this year. I mean, we probably will be. One player who I've dreamed of signing in this save game is Alex Scott. He started his career at Guernsey once upon a time. In this save game, he's moved around for some big money over the years. Unfortunately, Sheffield United have just made a bid of £16.5 million for him. So the dream of signing Alex Scott probably has to go on hiatus for, well, the foreseeable future. We may never get him, which would make me sad. If I am going to lose Abu Kamara at the end of his contract, would it be mad to go back in for Amani Richards? He's probably not the starting striker I'm looking for, but obviously we looked at him last year and he wasn't 100% keen on the move. Maybe he's changed his mind now. Williams was such a good Jamaican striker for us last year. I feel like we could just end up with loads of them. Apparently our stature's not big enough for him. We really need the reputation to go up here. Apparently we've enjoyed a small reputation boost this year for what it's worth. I mean, worth noting, the reputation in Football Manager is a lot more progressive than it used to be. It used to be that you had to wait to get promoted or wait for the season to tick over to get your reputation changes. It does change throughout the year a lot more now. So sadly, despite getting that inbox item, isn't really going to change the kind of players we can sign. I did mention, didn't I, the possibility of replacing Clayton Green as our head of youth development. He's been here for the last 7 years. Let's go and see if there's anyone better. What would actually be ideal is if I can just sign him as a coach, because he is actually a very, very good coach. So if he's willing to have a change of role, that would work out quite nicely. He doesn't want to change his role. Are there any good head of youth developments out there? Apparently there is Justin Donowa. I mean, he is just not better than what we've already got, is he? I don't know if I've ever used this screen in my life before. I mean, here is a comparison of them as head of youth development. Yeah, I really don't think there's much point in making a change. Okay, we do have the championship season review. Apparently, we were the biggest overachievers this year. As a season to remember, as results like a 1-0 versus Peterborough. Ah, yes, that classic 1-0. We finished 12 spots above our pre-season predicted finish. Teixeira's performances were a joy to behold. That is true. Signing of the year, my boy. Teixeira's won signing of the year, the giraffe. I'll tell you what is a little bit of a surprise. The fact that second in the signing of the years is Williams. Although, when you consider we plucked him as a free transfer from Jamaica and he did get 20 goal contributions in 40 games, suppose he probably does actually deserve that. He had a really good year. I've not picked him up enough. Now, in the English League, there is like a fund that is allocated for under 21 players getting minutes. The more players and minutes you give them under the age of 21, you get points back. The league average was £12,000. We were 3 times below the league average in terms of the number of under 21-year-olds we had playing. What I am going to say, though, is that might well change this year. We've got a lot of under 21 players all of a sudden. Okay, the season has just officially ticked over. Are we still going to be predicted to finish bottom? The teams promoted from League One are actually pretty good sides. And also, of course, there was an auto-save to add extra tension here. Where are we predicted to finish? The board want us to attempt to avoid relegation. I just have to accept that. Are we predicted to finish bottom? The answer is yes, we are. Last year, odds on doing well, 300 to 1. I think these are actually the promotion odds. It was 300 to 1 last year. This year, it's 200 to 1. So clearly we are making some progress. Reading, by the way, who were promoted from League One, now predicted to finish 4th. Of course, they have got that tycoon owner. In another little bit of news, this is really interesting. Peterborough, they were down at the relegation zone last year. They had a tycoon takeover during last season. Their overall bank balance is £33 million. They are going to have a very good time, aren't they, at Peterborough? I mean, the fact there's 2 teams with tycoons in this league, as well as all the relegated teams from the Premier League, does make it feel like promotion's going to be very hard to get. A viewer did ask me recently, Jack, how long do you want to be in the Championship for? And the answer I gave them was, I don't want to be in the same league more than 5 years in a row. If you're in the same league 5 years in a row, things get stagnant from a YouTube point of view. I've got a 5-year plan. I want to believe in 4 more seasons, we will be getting promoted. I really do like the addition of Vaughan's to our team at right wing back. When he picks up that role, I think he's going to be really good for us there. Our backup wing backs at the moment are Mackenzie and Haddo. Haddo is an okay backup right wing back. He can also play on the left-hand side. Do you think maybe we need to get in one more player who can play right wing back? Just to give you a better visualisation of the depth to the team, this is where we're at right now. Now, worth noting at centre-back, obviously, we're 3 at the back. We have some pretty good wide centre-back options. I feel like Vaughan's and Haddo could slot in for Williams if needed. On the left-hand side, obviously, we have Thomas, who's there for now. With Beckford moving out, we still need a starting centre-back. Once that starting centre-back comes in, Thomas probably becomes the backup for Teixeira, and the new centre-back slots in at left centre-back. In the midfield, we do look a little light for wear on this screen. Obviously, we have Haddo and Vaughan's who can be the backup defensive mids. Donald and Abubakari are going to be the go-to defensive midfielders this year. One thing to note is, on the squad depth screen, we don't see our 2 new additions, who are longer term going to be defensive midfielders. Aaron McKillop here, I think, is going to be a really good player, and the man who I'm particularly excited to see given a chance when his moment comes is Blaine Goller. Are they players who are Championship quality? Not quite. Are they players who, if we got a long-term injury at defensive mid, I'd want to stick in there consistently? Maybe a question mark there too, but we need to show a bit of patience with this team. We're going to be in this league for a few years, and taking an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, trying to give them some minutes to develop, I think has to be part of that plan. In the wider areas, I mentioned right wing back. We have Haddo, we have Vaughan's. There's definitely room for another right wing back there, someone who's a bit more of a coverage option. Of course, on the left-hand side, we've got Mackenzie, we've got Adam. In the final third, I mean, assuming Davis renews his loan for us, that's going to be really big. Elsewhere, we've got the depth, I think, at centre, attacking mid. Striking area, we need a little bit more quality. I am still sat thinking, Abu Kamara, you've got 1 year left on your contract. Maybe I need to cash in on you. When you look at our striking options in this team, it's lots of players of very similar ability. Of course, McKillop and Goller can also actually play as strikers. Don't really plan on playing either of them as strikers unless it was an absolute emergency. And Yeah, I think if I am going to bring in a new striker, someone's got to make way. Would it make sense to move on Brandon Charles? I think when he's got another year on his contract after this season, probably not. When I look at Burstow, he's the kind of player who I'm willing to give a little bit more time. I still feel like he could be a pretty adequate backup player. He got 8 goals in 35 at the end of the day. And whilst Kamara was our second top goal scorer last year, don't really want to lose him on a free. I think he overperformed a little bit last year in terms of his goal scoring return. Maybe it's worth cashing in on him whilst he's valued highly. I think when it comes to that striking dilemma, we're going to hit the pause button on it, at least for now. Next episode, there's going to be a lot more transfer action to do. Still plenty of wheeling and dealing. We've got a lot of money in the bank. Lots of money to hopefully try and add some real improvement to this team. I feel like this year for the squad is a year of evolution rather than revolution. We're not nuking it all. I feel like we found something that worked last year. Just a case of adding a few new key players as part of a steady progression we're making forward. If you have enjoyed today's video, do make sure to drop a like on it. We will be back tomorrow with more Park to Prem action. Until then, take it easy. It is me, Jack, and I'll see you all on the next one. I'm out.